I know you, and I know that you want to build your dream life, but reality is getting in the way. For people like us who are neurodivergent, jobs can be incredibly draining and life-sucking. So this video is about how working retail for stability can ultimately disconnect you from yourself, and how easy it is to kind of blame yourself for being so exhausted when your brain is literally just wired a completely different way. So I'm going to be using my own experience and telling you guys a little bit about what I went through this past year. And hopefully this can give you the strength to make a decision that is right for you, or even just find solace in knowing that you are not alone. I worked at a alcohol shop, so we sold drinks, mostly wine, and my store was the flagship store, so it was kind of like the biggest one. It was the one that was kind of the most competition, and we kind of had a lot of work to do to make sure that our store stayed on top. So I began this job honestly because I wanted to feel like an adult and I wanted to stop disappointing my family. Obviously my family's from a different generation than me, and they don't necessarily think that like YouTube or that sort of thing that I'm doing right now, my dream, is realistic. So I just got really tired of disappointing them and making them annoyed at me. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go and get this job. And honestly, I am grateful for this job. I think that everyone should work at least once in their life, even if for a few months, because it can teach you some essential life skills. It can teach you some really good discipline, and it can really help with social anxiety as well, and just kind of having some sort of a purpose, especially for people who are feeling a little bit lost. But it is also very easy to make that job your whole identity, as we're going to get to in a second. And also, many people need work to survive, and I completely understand that. For me, I came from a very privileged place where it really was a choice at the end of the day, but I understand that a lot of people, like, they can't put food on the table if they're not working a job. So I do want to acknowledge that as well. Let's start with masking. Masking takes up a huge amount of mental energy just to kind of keep up with the social demands, to keep up some sort of like a persona so that your real self doesn't come out and you don't seem weird. Although, okay, so let me just tell you first of all, at this point I wasn't diagnosed with autism yet, so I didn't fully kind of have the words for things. So while I masked, I also try to be as authentic as possible. I don't know if the masking worked, but I still did mask, and that took up a lot of energy. But the social stuff, even despite trying to fit in, it was really confusing, because most of the conversations were around gossip, just giving out about other people who worked there, and it was a pretty small team, so I would imagine like the gossip literally went around in a circle. It's really draining in that sort of situation, because you know that you can't really trust these people because they're just going to weaponize your words against you, and it's just not authentic. Like, it's just very fake, and that is not the vibe. So already that was draining, pretending to be a completely different person, trying your best to fit in with that sort of culture but just not really agreeing with it, and then coming home at the end of the day like just every single day slowly kind of losing access to parts of yourself. For me as well, my processing speed is a little bit slower, so I find it pretty hard to keep up with the constant new rules. And like I said, this was the flagship store, so they kept on moving goalposts higher and higher, and it was just so hard to keep up with, because they would be like, okay, you know, perfect, you were giving 100% this week, but that's not enough, we need to give you 110%. And I took that very literally and did give actually 110%, and it was draining. I also found working here that I had less control of my schedule. I like to have a nice little schedule. I like to get up, I like to do my journaling, a little meditation, do some yoga, all these sorts of things, and especially with kind of my dreams, which is, you know, this YouTube channel and working on it and hopefully growing a beautiful audience. I need a lot of control over my schedule, and this job did not do that. It was just, no, sorry, we can't give you the same shifts every single week. We have to give you completely different ones all the time. It's gonna change week to week. And like, girl, how are they not like drained by that? Like, the unpredictability of it is just not the vibe. I don't like it. And like, technically I understand a lot of these things and a lot of like why they do things the way they do. Like, I understand it logically, but it also just doesn't, like, with my empathetic brain, it just doesn't compute, you know what I mean? When college came around, I put a little bit less effort into work and a lot more effort into college, and I knew that I was starting to really disappoint my boss and my coworkers. There was a little bit of kind of snarky energy towards me, and then eventually my boss basically sat me down and said, if you don't improve the way you're working, we are going to fire you. Which wasn't very nice to hear, especially as someone who is afraid of getting in trouble. So that was kind of like a wake-up call, like, oh, okay, it's this job or it's college. And technically with college, like, you don't have to come in every single day. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just not really going to put in any effort into college, and I'm just going to put in all the effort into work. This was a huge mistake. Please don't make this mistake if you are in this position. A degree is going to be with you forever. A silly little part-time job, you can just quit it. So this led to really bad grades. Well, not really bad, like I wasn't failing, but definitely not as good as I want them to be. And also I was president of the Psychology Society, and I was a very unreliable leader, and I feel not good about that. But looking back, I do have a lot of compassion for myself. So yeah, I was just prioritizing work, even putting YouTube on the kind of back burner. I wasn't even really doing anything to do with YouTube. It was more so just kind of like planning and thinking about it. And I got to the point where I was just constantly fantasizing about YouTube, because I wanted to start posting, but I just did not have the energy, and I had all these ideas. Zero energy. So instead of actually doing anything, I was just in my head, like at work, thinking about YouTube, doing assignments, thinking about YouTube, and pretending that I'm kind of like, you know, where I want to be in my head, but not actually doing the work. And not only that, but I was spending all week just preparing for the day that I would work. So this job was already taking a lot out of me by this point. It was taking my productive energy outside of work, and it was also just taking away from my grades, even taking my kind of sense of being able to relax and breathe. And I remember feeling like just constant doom whenever the manager would post into the work group chat. Like, I started to become really afraid of this guy, and I already was afraid of him, but I started to become even more afraid after he was kind of giving out to me that one time. I just didn't want to disappoint him. I hate disappointing people. And he always said, this is the best team that I've ever worked with, but we need to do even better. And once again, I understand it's a flagship store, they have responsibilities. As a neurodivergent person, you take that literally, and you're like, okay, I am worthless, I need to do 10 times better and sacrifice everything. So I gave it even more. I couldn't even make my vision boards anymore. I couldn't even write down any plans or put in literally nothing, no effort into any of my dreams. All I could do was put in effort into work. It was taking everything from me. And it got to a point where I was angry at myself for not having the energy, and I was just angry at the situation. I honestly didn't even have energy to cook. I was just eating takeout all the time, which led to gaining more weight. The best way I could describe it is that I couldn't person outside work. The only way I could person is inside of work. I know that's very kind of millennial sounding, but it's true. I couldn't really be a person or be an adult unless I was in work. And obviously this would lead to me becoming a lot more bitter towards the job as time went on. So eventually I started putting in less effort again. I began to actually start seeing some of my worth and see how I don't deserve to live like this. I deserve a lot more, because my worth was pretty low before this. So I guess the job gave me something back. And eventually I had to call in to tell my boss that I'm way too burnt out to come in that day, and if I did come in, I would probably just be able to stand behind the counter, and that's all. And that was like the truth. I could not do anything. Literally the most I could do was go to the bathroom. And that call led to me quitting and my boss agreeing, and it was basically a mutual decision. So it's honestly quite aggravating to know that you put in so much effort at work. You literally sacrificed everything just for them to agree and be like, yeah, you're not good enough. I agree. Like, it's just, it feels like a slap in the face. We give, and we get nothing back. And we also get a, yeah, I agree, great shit. That's not very nice. So yeah, I completely let go. I completely crashed. I couldn't do anything. Spent an entire month in bed, and I'm not exaggerating. Like, it was bad. The burnout was terrible. Probably the worst burnout I've ever had. I spent a lot of time in like FOMO land. Like, what if I could have balanced all these things? Why couldn't I balance all these things? Why couldn't I do amazing in work, amazing in college? Like, one of my colleagues, she was doing so good. She was going to parties. She was doing really, really well in her grades. She was doing work. She was doing all of it at like 100%. Why couldn't I do it? Why? Like, what was wrong with me? So I was basically balancing between that, like, what if and why am I like this? And also, am I just being dramatic? Am I just pretending? Am I just like pretending to myself that I feel like this, but I'm just being lazy? And if that's you, if you're feeling like that, if you're wondering that, no. If it's gotten to this point, you are not just lazy. There is something going on there. It could be some sort of a physical bodily issue, or you could just be neurodivergent or disabled or something. Like, it's worth getting that checked out. So for me, coming back to myself involved a lot of relaxation and a lot of special interests. And I wouldn't even say that I'm fully recovered either. I'm finding it really, really hard to get into a routine, and I keep on getting drained whenever I kind of have pressure on myself to do productive stuff, but I am trying my best. But for me, it took a lot of repetitive special interest stuff, so playing my favorite video game and processing all the emotions that came up. So for a while I had a lot of anger towards both the job and society for not being able to accommodate my needs as much as I needed them to. And I feel like people complain about neurodivergent people not working, but then they don't even give them the support that they need. And I feel like that's unfair and it's uninclusive. Like, how are you going to complain about neurodivergent people not working when you're not even going to make the job like fit for a neurodivergent person? Yeah, technically we can work, but it's not sustainable if we are completely drained from that work to the point where all we can do is go to the bathroom. But I got to the point where I was just fed up and I declared, no, I am not going to do anything for family anymore. Obviously, if they need me, I'll do something for them, to help them, but I'm not going to do anything about my identity around my family. I'm not going to change my life goals just because they don't think it's realistic or just because they have some sort of a vision for me, because this is my life. Are they living life through my brain and my eyes? No, they're not. So I'm gonna do things for me and I'm gonna live life for me, not for them. And I think that is the best decision that I have ever made in my life. I feel a lot more confident than before, and I'm genuinely excited for what the future has to offer. So if you are still in this situation, then I want you to know that you're not failing. Like, society and like capitalism, all these different structures are made so that this hierarchy can stay the same, and it just does not have people with different brains as needs in mind. It's just, okay, how can we make the rich richer and the poor poorer? That's all it is. But you can take advantage of this system, and I'll probably make another video about that in the future once I've properly figured out how to take advantage of the system, but I know it's possible. But yeah, I mean, survival comes first sometimes, and just because you were drained from whatever job you're doing, that does not make you weak or lazy or dramatic or even a bad person. It just means that your brain is wired differently, and especially if you know that you're putting in as much effort as you possibly can. Like, it's not your fault. It's not a character failing. It just means that you may be wired differently than other people, and that place is not serving you. That place is not working out for you. But I also understand that not everyone can just leave. Not everyone is as privileged as I am. So some people need these jobs to survive. I just want you to know that you deserve more, and you can get it. There are different possibilities, and it's not easy. I'm not saying that it's easy, but you can. I would start with kind of treating the exhaustion that you feel as information. So what exactly is it that drains me? Is it the masking? Is it the noise? Is it the kind of constant task switching? Write it down on a piece of paper and just kind of see what exactly are the things that exhaust me most, and then find ways that you can accommodate those, even in subtle ways by yourself, like wearing loop earplugs, for example. Or for me, I didn't do this when I was working the job, but I did it my first year of college, like a little decompression ritual. So for me, I used a weighted blanket and a star lamp and Skyrim music, and just staring at the stars underneath the weighted blanket really, really helped my nervous system calm down after that day. And then also create options. Like I said, there are options. I know that libraries are really good for neurodivergent people, and then also working in warehouses as well. If task switching is a problem for you, I would really recommend working in a warehouse. My boyfriend worked in a warehouse, and apparently it was pretty good, and he would recommend it for neurodivergent people. And also just try and let go of those feelings of guilt. I know it's a lot easier said than done, but please just remember, if you are genuinely like feeling this intensely in this way, that is not you just being lazy. There is something going on there. And that's not to say that if you're neurodivergent, then there's something wrong with you. It just means that you are not neurotypical, and you should stop trying to treat yourself like a neurotypical. And finally, I would say treat retail more like a stepping stone, not like your whole identity. If it's fighting with other things that are going on in your life that really should be taking the priority, cut that out as fast as you can if you are privileged enough to do that. If not, you have options. If you're in that position, then there are many other people who are in that position. And I'm sure that there are people who have spoken about what they did to try and get out of that situation. But yeah, my main takeaways are, first of all, I want you to know that struggling in retail or an environment like you're in does not mean that you are a bad person. Second of all is that some environments are just not made for people with our brains. They're just incredibly stressful and really, really send us into fight or flight. And I want you to know that you are allowed to want joy. You are allowed to want your dream life. There's nothing wrong with that. You're so much more than just a corporate number. And if your job has dimmed your light, I want you to know that you still deserve that life that you've always dreamed of, and that your true self is still within you. You can still make a beautiful life for yourself regardless of the time that that job took from you. If you're alive, anything is possible. You can literally do anything. It's just about thinking outside the box. How can I do it differently? How can I do it in a way that will work for me? Looking at people who have been in situations similarly to you, and what did they do? How did they escape it? There are so many options, there are so many possibilities, and there are so many people who have been and are in the same situation as you. So please never feel alone. This internet is a blessing, I think. It really, really just reiterates the fact that there are so many other people who are going through the exact same thing as you. And we can literally just sit here and hold each other's hands and tell each other, it's going to be okay, I believe in you, because I do, I believe in you. And if you clicked on this video, then that means that you are looking for the options, or you are processing this experience that might have happened to you, or maybe you're just watching this video because you're bored. That's valid too. Oh, absolutely, welcome. Please share in the comments below your experience or some sort of a makeup tip, because I'm trying to get better at makeup and I think it's really fun to share that journey with you guys as well. And if you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate it if you could like, comment, or hype it. I think that's like a new feature where it like pushes out smaller creators' videos. That would be so nice if you could do that. Only if you really enjoyed the video though. I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for listening, and I want you to know that you are amazing. Bye!